Shut up and sit down.
This is Holistic Vigilantes, hosted by Dr. Kimberly Bear and Dr. Jennifer Tippegraff. These two badass dentists are breaking the mold to provide modern dentistry that doesn't compromise overall health. Determined to spread the word, the Vigilantes are kicking down the door as they bring you honest answers to hard questions. Buckle up for a wild ride down the Meridian Highway as they explore the connection between oral health and whole body health, saving the world one smile at a time. And now, the Holistic Vigilantes.
Hi and welcome. My name is Jennifer Tippegraff.
And I'm Kimberly Bear.
And we are the Holistic Vigilantes. Woo! Yes, we're so excited. We're recording outside today. It's so nice out. Really getting in tune with nature and our animals around us. If you're watching the video, you can see all these fun creatures. Today we have Dr. Ulka Agarwal.
Hello.
She is a board certified psychiatrist and professional life coach. She previously served as a chief medical officer and director of clinical research for the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, Pcrm, and a nonprofit plant-based research organization. In this role, she designed, led, and published clinical trials on the health effects of plant-based diets. She also honed her skills as a plant-based weight loss coach, applying her years of education in nutrition, mindset, motivation, and problem solving. Her published research includes the effects of plant-based diets on weight loss, diabetes, cholesterol, mood, migraines, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetic neuropathy, work, productivity, and quality of life. A lot of things that our patients.
That's right. I basically described every issue I have.
Yeah. Welcome to the Holistic Vigilantes podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you guys.
Let me just say, I've known Ulka for a while, and she's Dr. Ulka. She's amazing, and I'm actually super excited to do this because I get to pick her brain, and I've been dying to. So I guess like what I find most interesting, and I just want to make sure people understand what this is when you I know you've done so many things, but when you did your research with Pcrm, if you could just tell people actually what that organization is and what they do so that they understand fully.
Yeah, so Pcrm, Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, they're a nonprofit organization right here in Washington, D.C., right in Friendship Heights. They've been around, I know, at least 30 years, probably closer to 40 years. Oh, they just had their 35th anniversary, that's right. And they focus on research, so clinical trials looking at the effects of plant-based diets on chronic medical illnesses. So Pcrm published one of the first papers on plant-based diets and diabetes, which was really cool. And they also do a lot of research and advocacy on the Hill. They've lobbied to try to get more plant-based foods into federal food programs like SNAP and healthy school lunches.
That's great.
And then they have another sect of the organization where they look at alternatives for animal testing.
I love that.
Right, because we know that most animal testing, rats, monkeys, they don't translate to humans. I mean, we are not rats.
And clearly, most people are okay with people testing. I mean, we got this vaccine that we put out in a blink, and
That's
the
right.
idea that you wouldn't take something, or you would, that there's plenty of people that would love to be involved in getting a solution to different medical issues.
I think so. And Pcrm has been working, for many years and really making a lot of progress in terms of animal testing on cosmetics and really trying to devise, just like you were saying, in the lab, some alternatives to that. So that's very exciting work that they're doing.
And I know we already said it, but just for the listeners, once again, it's Pcrm stands for the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine.
Yeah, they do amazing things.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious, and this is really off track, but like, I don't know if you, because I know you don't work there right now.
Right.
But are they doing any research with COVID and like plant-based diet effects or anything like that?
That's a great question. I don't know of any research studies, but I know they are doing a lot in terms of how plant-based diets can improve or, kind of reduce your risk for severe illness with COVID-19, reducing inflammation, boosting immunity with, antioxidants and plant-based foods. PCRM has a ton of free resources on their website, pcrm.org. And I know they are addressing COVID-19. I believe they just had a group program for pretty low cost that looked at diet and COVID-19. And trying to improve your diet and boost your immunity. So,
where do they get most of their funding from?
Donors.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah, the diabetes study was an NIH grant, but those are hard to come by.
Yeah, sure.
But by donations.
It just seems like, that's...
And when we say plant-based, are we talking...
Good question. Yeah.
Vegan, vegetarian, or, just because I know, you have some people that are completely plant-based, and then you have some people that just like to start to incorporate it. And for listeners that are eating meat but are contemplating or flirting with the idea of going more plant-based, does it help with that transition, or what does it really look like, this plant-based eating?
So it's such a good question, because plant-based diet kind of sounds like this mystical sort of thing that we don't really know what it means, but it just means all plants. So in another way of saying it is vegan. All right. Right. And so plant-based diet is a diet full of plants only and no animal products. Most of the studies at PCRM look at low-fat plant-based diets. Okay. So really looking at watching the amount of fat, cooking oils, and not having too many nuts and seeds, just maybe a handful.
Is that really
a day.
A problem? Is that really a problem? Having too many nuts or seeds?
Let her answer, and then I would like to chime in with something.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. So it depends. I mean, nuts, there are studies that show that if you increase your nut intake, it actually helps you maintain a healthy weight. Mm-hmm. But for people, if your single focus is to lose weight, you don't want to have to count calories, and you want to be able to eat as much as you want. If you do a plant-based diet where you are watching how much you eat, doesn't mean you can't eat any nuts or seeds, but you want to limit them to about a handful a day. Otherwise, the calories start to pack on quite a bit.
Yeah, no, I know there's a lot of fat.
If you look at how many peanuts make 200 calories, you would be surprised. So it's important to have a nice, healthy, mixed diet. So not saying that you want to restrict anything too much, but if you really cut down on oils and you just watch nuts and seeds, then you have a pretty low-fat diet.
Yeah, I will say, so I did this crazy cleanse thing in April, and then
it's called, listen to this, it's called Liquid Success.
Oh. Okay, so anyways, but I'm trying to maintain it, but I was eating all these nuts because I was starving when I was finished. And then the weight was coming back up. And then I realized I wasn't just eating a handful. I was eating 5 handfuls.
Exactly.
Because you're hungry and it tastes so good. I was macadamia nuts, almonds, peanuts. Yeah. I was So I totally, there is that fine line. I feel for some people like myself. That I was just spoonfuls of almond butter. It was just,
loving it. Sounds fun, but yeah.
So if someone told us their diet was plant-based, do you assume that they're vegan?
It depends on what they mean by plant-based. Okay. Yeah, when I say plant-based, I mean vegan. Okay. So no animal products, no dairy, no eggs, no fish. But I think some people might be vegetarian and say plant-based. Okay. Because we're saying plant-based, we're not saying only plants. Yeah. And so I think it encompasses both.
Sure. I didn't assume, that's so funny, I didn't assume plant-based was vegan, but I assumed it would be
you're eating
minimal dairy, minimal. I don't know.
Products. Yeah.
Well, for any of the research that I've done, it's a pure vegan diet.
Okay. So the health benefits of eating a plant-based, should we say, /vegan diet, in terms of mood, weight, sex, chronic disease.
Let's start with moods.
Yeah. Which one you're interested in?
Because you're a psychiatrist.
Right.
So you've done lots of private practice. You deal with moods all the time.
Yeah.
And you've done research on foods and how they affect the mood. So.
Yeah. And I actually published a paper with PCRM that showed that the low-fat vegan diet does improve mood. And that was one of the few papers that is on plant-based diets and mood. If you look, there's not many. And the data is kind of mixed when you look at them. One big meta-analysis and systematic review just came out last year. They haven't published the actual paper. It was presented. It was like a poster presentation. But they found that it was kind of inconclusive. You can't really say a plant-based diet improves or worsens depression. And part of that reason is because people who are depressed want to find something in their diet to improve their mood. And so people are depressed and then adopt a plant-based diet, vegetarian or vegan, somewhere in between, and then are part of a study. And we don't know, so we can't really say that the diet is causing the depression. Likely they're depressed first. But there's so many things about a plant-based diet that can improve mood. So one of the big things is, lots of vitamins and minerals. So if you have any vitamin deficiencies, you do need to take a B12 supplement if you're pure vegan. But if you're not lacking in any vitamins or minerals, your mood's going to be better. We know folate helps with depression. Think dark green, leafy vegetables, kale, spinach, collard greens, all of those full of folate. Plant foods increase our level of serotonin. Contrary to popular belief, turkey isn't the highest content of tryptophan, which becomes serotonin, which affects our sleep and mood. But plant foods are really high in serotonin as well. And then one of the big things about depression that we're learning is it's not just related to serotonin, so it's related to inflammation. And this kind of makes sense. I'm sure you guys come across inflammation, inflamed gums, and just when people have inflammation in their body, it probably affects their oral health.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it affects the entire body. So when you're obese, you have chronic inflammation, which makes you more likely to feel depressed. Diabetes is related to depression because of the inflammation. And so this is one of the theories about depression, is that you have increased inflammation in the body, and somehow these antidepressants are reducing the inflammation and also helping balance serotonin levels and norepinephrine levels and dopamine levels as well.
You mean food? These foods are...
So just say that's why we think the medications are maybe helping, and why I think the diet is helping. Because we used to think that serotonin medications are just working only on serotonin.
But really, it's decreasing the depression, which is then decreasing the inflammation.
Or they're potentially decreasing inflammation, which is decreasing the depression.
Oh, the actual the pharmaceuticals.
So when you say, you're talking about like Prozac and things like that. Interesting.
Yeah. And then the plant-based diet is like the ultimate anti-inflammatory diet, because you don't have, for example, omega-6 fatty acid, arachidonic acid is found mostly in animal products. And it's pro-inflammatory. It stimulates the prostaglandins to kick out inflammatory substances in the body. When you get rid of that, your omega-3, omega-6 balance is better because you want more omega-3s than omega-6. And so that's probably one of the main ways that the diet is improving mood.
That's great. Yeah.
All conversations and information exchanged during participation of the Holistic Vigilantes podcast or interaction within the social media umbrella of the Holistic Vigilantes pages are strictly for educational and entertainment purposes. Back to the show.
What about weight?
So something interesting about plant-based diets, which I learned when I started to work at Pcrm. I was educated when I got there. I thought I knew about diet and health, and I actually lost 25 pounds when I got to Pcrm. I was a little bit overweight when I got there as I learned about the diet.
Were you a vegan when you got there, or did you become a vegan?
I became a vegan.
What were you when you got there?
Oh, so
were you
interesting.
a meat eater?
No. I pretty much stopped eating meat in high school, and then I kind of flirted with it a little bit in medical school because I was in Chicago, and there's a lot of hot dogs out there. But I was predominantly vegetarian. I had a little bit of, the cheese was hard. So I was still eating cheese. I was still going to, what is that fast food place in California? I can't think of the name. And they have a grilled cheese. In-N-Out. The grilled cheese on the secret menu. And I would still go and get it and say, okay, once every 6 months. So that was, we could talk about cheese later, but that's a tough one. So, but when I got to PCRM, it's a vegan environment. And so I learned about, what to eat. But with weight loss, plant foods are naturally low in fat. And you can eat as much as you want if you're watching the oils and fats. which is very nice. It's so you can lose weight, not count calories, and not feel like you're starving yourself.
Yeah.
Plant foods also, after each plant-based meal, your metabolism goes up about 16%. This is a study that Pcrm did. So you're just burning more calories.
That's awesome.
And your metabolism is up. And when you switch to plant-based, you realize that your energy just totally skyrockets. And that's probably because your metabolism is way up.
Yeah.
That's great. What about sex? Bedroom. Yeah, how does the plant-based diet?
Let's get to the real issues here.
Yes.
So interestingly, with plant-based diets, when you're talking about sex, erectile dysfunction. So Kim, you and I were talking about this a little bit before, which is that plant-based diets are kind of more associated with more like feminine qualities, and men sometimes are turned off by the potential on, what the effect could be on their masculinity. But men who eat meat and dairy have, more incidence or prevalence of erectile dysfunction.
That's so interesting.
Because they're more obese and they have more risk for diabetes. And diabetes affects the nerves and blood vessels.
And it doesn't, and I've done some research on that. And when you say obese, people think, but if you look at the numbers and you look at where the body fat thing is with that, it's not as much as you think. We're talking little belly.
Yeah.
Little belly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, BMI of 30 is not huge.
Little belly is like,
You're right. And you can have skinny legs and skinny arms and have that belly, and that belly is full of
The visceral fat.
Yep, all the hormones and toxins that fat carries.
It's affecting your sex life.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, you don't feel as good. You're low in energy. You don't feel, people don't feel good about themselves where they're not in the shape that they want to be in. Their vitality, their energy level is low.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting.
I've
Their
been
endurance.
heavier. I've been much heavier. I went through a phase after I had my daughter. I was like 80 pounds. Like, I remember being like, I would never exercise at this weight. Like, this is horrible.
It hurts when you're that big.
What first came to my mind was being pregnant, like having the big belly, trying to sleep, being exhausted.
It's uncomfortable, and it's not even about looks. I mean, everybody has got their ideal body weight, where they feel good, where they feel sexy, But for people who have weight that they want to get off and it feels uncomfortable and achy, they're not going to feel like they want to, be naked with their partner, and they don't, may not feel as sexy.
Sure.
So if you get the weight off, your energy's up, your endurance is up, your blood's flowing and pumping, I think that all improves your sex life quite a bit.
Yeah. Definitely.
I know we talked about chronic diseases. Is there anything else you want to include about the plant-based and chronic diseases?
Well, hold on. I want to go back to the sex thing. Sorry. So are they using plant-based diet to treat erectile dysfunction? Are they recommending it?
Do you mean Pcrm or just?
Would you recommend
experts? I would tell people to give it a try.
Yeah, it's worth a try.
My thing is, what's the harm?
Yeah.
It's a wonderful treatment because, so it's interesting you say it that way, because plant-based diets don't just spot treat. They will treat everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the person's also going to lose weight. Their cholesterol is going to go down. Their blood pressure is going to go down. They're going to have more energy. That all alone might make them feel a lot better.
Absolutely.
But, of course, why not? I mean, if it's better than taking a medication and having to time it before you're going to have sex, like something like Viagra.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do it naturally, why not?
Sure.
If you could take all your patients with you're a psychiatrist, so you got mood issues, you got just a plethora of chronic issues, and you could have totally control their diet.
Ooh.
How many of them do you think would need medications?
Fascinating question.
And this is a guess.
Yeah.
How, I'm not talking about, I know there's serious disorders, that are, I'm talking about just basically, I'm talking about everybody right now with this pandemic, suffering from depression and other things. And if you could, they say that the prescriptions for antidepressants, everything has gone through the roof this past year. If you could take everybody and just control their diets, I mean, what kind of effect do you think that would have on their quality of life?
Dramatic. And I think because of all the other effects that go along with plant-based diets. So they'll be, at maintaining a healthy weight, their energy is going to go up. You sleep better. because
Yeah.
you're burning cleaner fuel. Your gut doesn't have to work so hard at night to digest your food. And so you can sleep more sound. They'll probably be exercising more because they have more energy.
Yeah.
And eating plant-based is an exercise in mindfulness. You have to think. You have to stop and think at least 3 times a day. What am I eating? What's in my food? How am I going to prepare this? And that extra mindfulness, once you start thinking about what you're eating, you start to realize everything else in your life is a choice. And you become more thoughtful about all the other things that you do.
I like that. How about, and this is a little off topic, sorry, but how about, how do you feel about intermittent fasting?
Oh, heard lots of things about that. And actually in India, my parents fast. And it's, thought to really optimize your body.
And your brain.
Your brain, because it's not working on all the maintenance of digestion. And digesting all those fats and proteins. So it's not something I think I'm able to do. But I have heard great results from it. I know my brother's a neurosurgeon and he does intermittent fasting because he'll have 12, 14-hour surgeries. And it's just not feasible to eat in the middle of those. And so he's kind of adopted intermittent fasting.
I want to do that. That's my goal this year.
His energy has really increased.
This is my goal this year. It's a struggle, but I'm going to do it.
I think
There's ways to go about it. Yeah.
Do what you can do and what fits your lifestyle.
Sure.
Yeah.
Start there.
Yeah. And then, for the plant-based, I know we talked a little bit, about the sex, or a lot about the sex stuff, but also.
Sex is important.
Yeah,
absolutely.
No, of course. Linked with that, though, fertility. How the plant-based can influence fertility.
Yeah, I believe it can. I mean, if you look at, sperm production and the health of sperm, healthier when you're on a plant-based diet. And part of the reason for that is plant-based diets are packed with all these powerful antioxidants. And so, antioxidants that can repair DNA, that reduce oxidative stress, that's potentially the cause of some of the sperm not being as healthy or not producing as much sperm.
That's great.
And certainly obesity as well, when you get the weight off.
Yeah, and that goes for men and women. Mm-hmm. It's just I feel like that's such a prevalent issue these days. Yeah. Makes you wonder about what the I've had a patient who was telling me he's a surgeon, but he was saying how what they considered a normal sperm count 20 years ago, and now what they call a normal sperm count is like half.
Fascinating. Yeah. Right.
Like it used to be up here, and now it's down here, and they're saying this low level is okay, but clearly, there's so many fertility issues. I don't know.
And I really think it's a domino effect. When you change your diet and you're feeling better, so many things become possible.
Absolutely. I think aging. I think it just makes sense. I'm a dentist, but it just makes sense.
Oh yeah, plant-based diets increase your lifespan. They increase the ends of your telomeres, and you live longer.
I believe that.
Real.
I know.
And for people that are listening, telomeres in our
chromosomes,
are genetic. Yeah. A lot of research now coming out about with epigenetics and how the expression of our genes. And I talk to people all the time in the dental office. They'll say, "Oh, well, my mom just had bad teeth," or whatever. But you could have the best genes in the world, but you eat McDonald's every day or whatever, and then your expression of your genes. It's like, yes, genetics do play a role, but what you're putting into your body about, the whole food is medicine. And
it's such a great point.
And ultimately, in anyone who is, I struggled with my weight, especially when I was younger. I feel like it's easier for me now. Because I know more and I'm healthier, and then it's working out to lose weight does not work. Okay,
it's 80% of what you eat.
It's what you eat. You know what I mean? Everyone should work out. I think that is so important for everything.
But it's hard to work out when you have aches and pains and your endurance is low.
Yeah,
and you're carrying a lot of weight. It's stress on the body. But if you can get some of the weight off with healthy eating and boost your energy, people are going to want to exercise. Yeah. They're going to be amped up and ready to go. And so I think it's great to exercise, but if people can't, I think have a little self-compassion that it's hard to do if you have a lot of weight on. And if it's easier to start with diet, that's a great place to start because it's going to be key. Most of, But I wanted to go back to genetics because I thought that was so fascinating, Jen. And, what we say is with diabetes, for example, type 2 diabetes is so genetic. But those genetics, those genes are a suggestion. They're not a command.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
suggesting you have
I
diabetes.
know.
But they're not commanding you.
Yes.
But yeah, you can change the environment.
And you can deny that suggestion,
yeah.
right?
I love that.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hence how plant-based can help chronic disease.
I
you know?
had my
Exactly.
DNA testing done, like the advanced Genomind, where they did like the psychiatric aspect and they did the food aspect. And they told me I had the type 2 gene and type 2 diabetes gene. Basically, they call it the fat gene. And they were like, you know, you need to do A, B, C, and D, or else this is, you know. And I actually already figured that out with my I struggle with insulin levels and stuff. I have to keep myself at a very certain point, or else I have lots of issues. But yeah, no, you can change that.
Absolutely. High fiber balances insulin and blood sugar levels.
Yeah, I've been taking red rice yeast. I don't know.
Aim for 40 grams a day, you know, so the general guidelines are 25, aim for 40.
Yeah, fiber.
Protects against colon cancer too.
Oh no, I'm all fiber,
Get
and
things
it fills
moving.
you. Oatmeal.
Fibers, and your gut, your microbiome, so much healthier, more diverse, stronger, less inflammation. Yeah.
So
It's not sexy, but it's healthy. We gotta make
I
fiber
think it's
sexy.
kind of sexy. I think it's kind of sexy. I don't know.
In terms of also the plant-based on the gut health, and you know, there's a lot of, you see it now, these ads like drink milk, don't drink milk. You know, I remember seeing the first one most recently. It was an ad, do not drink milk. And it was like, I remember saying to Kim, like, wow, like this is out there now about like the adverse effects of milk.
Milk
and
is hormone and sugar in this country.
yeah. So what do you find with your research about dairy and gut health?
In terms of, I mean, if you look at dairy effects all over the body, you know, the protein casein is very pro-inflammatory. It's also a common allergen. A lot of people have an allergy to milk, and it's because of the casein. The way I look at milk is this, you know, lactose intolerance. What if that's not the anomaly? What if that's the norm? And we were not meant to be able to digest cow's milk.
Right.
We don't need it. So
What about unpasteurized? Because they say that's like, you know what I'm saying? There's a big
It's still
argument.
cows.
right. I think, you know, it's more about the animal protein. It's still acidic, that potentially could leach calcium out of your bones. And it's got that addictive quality. It's got the casomorphines in it. So these are like a tenth the potency of morphine, especially in cheese, has sort of that addictive quality. So you take in more than you need. But we don't need that much protein. We don't need that much fat. You can get healthier sources of everything you can get from milk in plant foods. So it's not a necessary part of the diet.
Yeah, it's interesting. My son's on a plant-based formula. It's pea protein or pea based. Yeah.
Oh yeah. How'd you decide that?
Just there's this amazing doctor in there, Dr. Carl Lord, and he came in and did like a little lunch and learn with our staff, and he was saying about like basically what you're saying. We're not designed to digest it. We don't need cow's milk, blah, blah, blah. So when I had finished the breastfeeding, I was like, you know, if I'm going to do a formula, let me do like a plant-based one.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
He's
cool.
amazing. He Dr. Lord is he was an OB in this area for years. He had a huge practice, and he's actually one of the founders of Nava Health and Vitality, and they're all about that. And we both go there. And actually, here's a little. He delivered me.
Oh my gosh, what a great story.
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, I had no idea. I went in there and they were like, "Oh, Dr. Lord's going to be seeing you today." And
You're
I was
like,
like,
what?
You're all, could it be the same?
So I have a question though. So we're talking about plant-based. Plant-based is great, all these things, but why are people eating meat? Why are they, I mean, why do they love meat? They love that. I mean, I know it tastes good, whatever, you know, but there's like with the milk or cheese, that addictive property of it, you know. But I mean, why is it just
it's cultural.
like our whole, or I should say, like would it be fair to say the United States like diet is based off of animal products?
Yeah. Major source of our saturated fat is animal products. And going back to what you're saying about your son, is that I wrote a paper actually on iron deficiency, anemia, and infants because the American Academy of Pediatrics had released a recommendation that said toddlers should eat red meat for iron so they don't become deficient. And I wrote sort of a rebuttal paper that got published. And part of that reading was that young kids develop a habit of eating red meat from when they're little. So if you're feeding it to them as toddlers and you're saying you need to eat this so you can be strong, that they become, like you were saying, becomes a habit, becomes part of the culture.
It's a huge cultural thing.
It's a passive way to eat. You go anywhere and you say, I'll take the number one.
Right.
You don't have to say, can I have this? No meat, no substitutions. It's such a passive way to eat in our country. But meat is also addictive. So it's got qualities where if you give people like naloxone, for example, and then...
What is naloxone?
Oh, so it's... okay, so maybe I'll phrase it this way. If you give people, for example, if you give opioid addicts a medication to make them not feel the effects of opioids anymore.
They're trying to wean off the
So they can wean off of it. So when they do take an opioid, it doesn't feel good. If you give meat eaters that same medication, the taste of meat is not as
that's
pleasant
fascinating.
Anymore. So there's something working there.
Yeah.
Right. And so there is an addiction to the meat.
Sure. That sounds highly conspiratory. Like, you have to wonder, we know this is going on in laboratories with all processed foods. Like, they're figuring out that one little, like Dr. Liao, one little molecule, how addictive that sugar can be.
Oh, yes.
And they want it. I mean, are they doing this in laboratories across the country with factory farming? Injecting the cows. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I sound crazy right now, but I can't imagine they're not.
They are. I mean, I'm not going to get too into the details, but the way they raise the animals for meat is in a way that looks appealing and tastes better. And so, but you're right. In the labs, they're mixing the perfect mix between, sugar and fat.
And they're putting it, I bet they're injecting it into I have no idea. Now I sound crazy. But they're injecting them.
Cows get like the antibiotics and everything, right? Which is being in the, in the dairy, in the milk. But there's also been talk about like all these girls that are like developing.
It's a fact.
Earlier.
Yes. That's right.
And it's just interesting because being around, and this is like
they're saying they're developing earlier because of the hormones that are in the milk.
Just my own personal observation. I mean, I have not, full disclosure, like done any scientific research behind this or anything. But
we know nothing.
But maybe you can
we're dentists.
help chime in a little for this. But I've noticed, because I'm around a lot of, children my daughter's age and things like that, and changing diapers and things like that, I have noticed like in the like stomach, like vagina area, that it's just things tend to like, I'm trying to describe it like in a way look inflamed or like bigger down there versus like my daughter who like, she's pretty much, like she's not vegan, but plant-based.
I have no idea where you're going with this.
No, I know. I don't know. It's just, I've had these like thoughts and and it's just interesting to like talk about how with dairy being inflammatory throughout.
Exactly.
About seeing, just like this, the tissues, like almost like in a swollen type of way.
Yeah. They say, a belly. A lot of times with the kids, if they take them off gluten and their belly is sort of
right. That's what I'm like. I'm trying to like.
And insulin growth factor is a substance found in dairy as well, and it's linked to prostate cancer. So inflammation, cells are growing much faster than they should. And that's why we don't need dairy. We don't need that much protein. Right. It potentially can cause inflammation and growth in places we don't want.
Relating it to the dental aspect of things, we see, unfortunately, a lot of children with sleep disturbances. And one of the things that I talk to the parents about, I say, look, I know it's hard if you're doing a lot of dairy, the cheese, the yogurt, there's other sources of calcium out there and ways to get it in. But if you can just really try for 2 weeks, no dairy, really be like super strict about it and see what happens. See if those tonsils come down in size. Because I feel like for some kids, just that little bit, it's like a trigger. And then the tonsillar tissue, which is
they are
lymphatic tissue, it's like
so much inflammation.
And then they go to sleep at night, lay back just due to gravity alone. The tongue falls into the back of the throat with these enlarged tonsils.
Right.
And then it's like, no wonder your kid's sleeping with their mouth open or clenching or grinding to get the lower jaw out of the back, to move that tongue out of the back of the throat. I mean, it's on top of like clean air in the bedroom they sleep in and, just other things, obviously. But, I just think it's
like mindfulness, like you were saying about like really thinking about what you're putting in your body
right.
and taking it seriously.
And like singers don't like to drink dairy because it creates like some mucus and inflammation. And,
there's what's the downside of getting rid of that? I love dairy. The downside is
in the United States, the dairy industry would be very upset.
Right. Well, they're very protected. They're very protected. But I think it's just because it's just breaking a habit. And any habit you try to break is so hard because your brain, preserves energy by just doing the same thing, whether it's better for you or not. And so I think it's hard for people because they just don't know any other way. They've been told for so many years from the government, milk does a body good, American Academy of Pediatrics, three milks a day. It's hard for people to say, okay, if I take this big part out of my child's, diet,
how are they getting calcium? I'm always like
beans and greens.
I know.
Easy for kids to remember, beans and greens for your calcium. But there are healthier ways and it can be a little bit challenging.
Sure.
But slowly maybe substituting, a glass of milk with extra beans and greens, one meal a day to start with and then kind of grow from there, see how the kids like it. And we're so blessed with so many plant-based milks these days.
Mm-hmm. We're so lucky. Yeah, there's so many options.
There's so many options.
And it's accessible. Mm-hmm. And they're not all
accessible.
Yeah, and they're not that much more expensive. I mean, there's really
yeah. Almond milk, coconut milk.
I mean, even
oat
just
milk.
Oat milk. Yeah, how do you feel about oat milk?
I prefer almond milk myself, but my husband loves the oat milk in coffee and in his cereal.
Let me just say, this is totally off topic as well. I like to say a lot of off topics.
Yeah,
I know. I know Ulka's husband, and he is a hardcore vegan. Am I correct?
You are correct.
And let me tell you, this man is a testimony to vegan living because he has a deal with the devil, and he does not age.
He's impressive.
He's a beautiful man, and he just emanates youth and vitality. And I was actually, when I met him, and then I found out, and I was like, okay, that's why I was so impressed with his presence. And yeah, he's it's really, you guys are a great couple.
Oh, thank you.
So we were talking a little bit about the tonsils and the teeth and everything. But yeah, his name is Steve. I've heard great things about Steve. Yeah.
Can I just say one more thing about Steve since we're talking about my husband now? I was just going to say, when we first started dating and I was still, a little bit overweight and not eating as healthy plant-based. I mean, you should see his meals. They look like magazine meals that he just naturally eats. They're so colorful and so packed with nutrients. And I remember we went on vacation early in our relationship and I was so tired. I turned to him, I'm like, do you ever get tired? I remember just asking him that. I'm like, do you ever get tired? He just had so much energy. And I was like, okay, I'm 11 years younger than him. And I'm exhausted. I'm doing something wrong, And so anyway, the testament to the plant-based way of eating.
That's so cool.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. So what effects have you seen of plant-based on teeth, on the dentition?
I don't have much experience with that. I imagine that it's probably less inflammation for people. People have less acid reflux that's coming up into their mouths, less kind of stomach acid in general. And because they've got less weight, they have less reflux, they're not eating as fatty foods. But I'd be interested to hear what you all think. You mentioned, Kim, about
I have a bunch of books, dental diet books, and and they're all there's a lot of books out there, and diet is huge. It's huge with everything, but I think the gut connection is the most direct connection with the teeth, as with everything else, but with the teeth in general. So when I play this game with myself, and actually this might be the first time I'm saying this out loud, but when I'm working on a patient, when I go on a patient and they have a filling, or a lot of times we do fillings not because there's decay, but it could be like a broken tooth or a trauma, or there's lots of reasons.
Amalgam, mercury filling.
Yeah. So when I go in there, and there's really two types of teeth you drill on, and one is like butter. and they're easy, and it's actually kind of nice because it makes my job really fast and easy. And literally, Jennifer, you know it's true, like whoop, done. And sometimes you're in there and it's like a jackhammer, right? And I always, when it's really hard, I ask the patient if they're vegetarian. And they're always vegetarians. And I'll see a patient that I know I have to do work on, and I know that they're a vegetarian, and I'm like, get out some extra new burrs, because I'm gonna need a few burrs, because this is gonna dull out quickly. Their teeth always, and I think it's just about the mineral absorption. Their guts tend to be healthier. Those patients are not my patients with like a slew of medications.
And you're right, you do absorb better absorption of vitamins and minerals from your gut.
The D and K, like we are putting our patients on like higher levels of getting their mineral content up, and we're seeing like periodontitis, like it can eliminate these things on people. They're not absorbing minerals. And a lot of times you can throw these supplements at them and they're still not going to get, because there's probably, some other connection, like whether it's food or gut issues. But it's definitely a very strong.
I feel like I have to confess something to two dentists. I did not floss for much of my adult life, which I'm so embarrassed and shameful, to say. But talking about the domino effect of health, when I went vegan and started exercising more, I was like, what else? Like, I'm a healthy person. I started to identify as a healthy person. And I was like, I'm going to floss every day.
That's awesome.
And
you're probably eating more fibrous
that was a number of years ago.
Well. Probably eating a more fibrous diet as well.
You have to get the salad out.
Yeah. Exactly. All the greens out and everything. But
yeah,
you're right. It is a domino effect.
Yeah.
The other place I feel like I noticed in the dental world of the effects of plant-based, and I don't know if you can confirm this, but I'd been watching the documentary Game Changers. She had told me to watch it, and or Dr. Kid Bear had, and they said when you take the blood and you spin it, how it looks different. And we do what's called PRF in our office, platelet-rich fibrin. When taking out a tooth, it's your own growth factors. When we spin it, and I see like really, really good PRF, like just like nice, like looks like a big giant booger, and I just ask the patient, I'm like, do you eat a lot of plants? And they'll be like, yeah, I'm vegetarian or I'm vegan, whatever.
Sometimes we spin it though.
And
we can take
terrible.
A lot of blood, and it's always a little disconcerting.
Yeah.
You look, there's just not a lot of growth factors in there.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the medical, there's usually, it's a very strong correlation, and there's gut issues.
Yeah.
Right. And this dispels that theory that if you go vegan, you're going to have iron deficiency anemia. I mean,
That's
you have
crazy.
healthy blood levels, vitamins, minerals, you've got your antioxidants, and your body is not so burdened with trying to digest fats and twice as much protein as you really need, because when we eat meat and dairy, we're getting twice as much protein as we actually need. If you follow low-fat plant-based diet, you're getting the ideal amount of protein that you need.
People get way too much protein.
Well, but 50 years ago, if you look at the American diet, like an average American diet, like Midwest, like they would have meat like once a week. Like it would be like a Sunday meal. You know what I mean? And we're so excessive.
We are.
We are so crazy excessive. And even when I go overseas and like, granted, and I'm in these third world countries, and it's interesting because I got in Haiti, where it was probably one of the saddest situations, but they're all plant-based because they cannot afford meat unless they're killing a dog in the street or something. Like it's a very sad situation where we were at. And they have bigger issues, probably. They have much bigger issues, but very strong teeth and not a stitch of fat on their body. Yeah. Just like...
We have portion issues here. I mean, I had friends visiting from Hungary, a number of years ago, and they were like, we can't finish the plate. There was like, these were young 20-somethings. They're like, there's too many fries.
I know.
I mean, I feel like one of the first things with the weight loss stuff is they'll say like, get the smaller plate.
Right.
Like
Smaller
that's what, smaller plates, smaller utensils.
But the beauty with low-fat plant-based is you can eat as much as you want, and you're going to feel fuller faster because of the fiber. And so you just don't even feel like you need to eat that much. There's zero fiber in animal food, so you're going to feel hungrier after a while.
So since you've done some research on this, what would you say the most addictive items, narcotics? Because Dr. Ulka used to... probably still is, but like you did a lot of work with people with addiction issues, correct?
In my other practice before the one I'm in now, there were a lot of addictions, yeah.
And narcotics primarily, correct?
Not primarily. It was a lot of alcohol, but certainly opioids as well.
Yeah, opioids are, it's crazy right now. Anyways, it's crazy.
Well, yeah,
it's been crazy.
I just heard on the news today about COVID with people drinking more.
Yeah.
How like
I have no
alcohol.
Definitely seeing that.
Yeah.
So, if you have narcotics, sugar, dairy, what of the three do you think?
Sugar.
Sugar?
Sugar's tough.
Let me throw some cigarettes in there too.
Oh, I mean, I know there's studies on these, and I don't remember what the ranking is. But it's surprising.
I think
almost sugar is more than even nicotine.
You're ranking what, the most addictive?
Most addictive. Sugar is so hard for people.
I'm going through this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I cannot believe I've developed this thing.
Well, so what you were talking about, our excess, was that, it's not enough to eat a potato. It's got to be fries. It's got to be cheese fries. Now it's got to be chili cheese fries. Now we have to supersize those fries, or we just feel like we can't taste anything. We're not getting any pleasure. So where our pleasure level has gone, it takes so much more for us to feel any pleasure with food, that if you think about, go eat a fresh apple instead of chili cheese fries, you're going to laugh at me and, tell me to go take a hike. So we have to get our taste buds back to the natural foods. And if we slow down and actually really taste foods in their natural state, they're delicious. Mm-hmm. And they're so complex. And we don't need all that added stuff. So if you go back to a balanced, colorful, plant-based diet with whole grains, your taste buds, you're going to miss the sugar for a little bit, but usually within 3-4 weeks, your taste buds do basically what I call a factory reset.
Yeah.
You factory reset back to when you were a baby. Remember we would eat squishy peas when we were little? How were we able to do that?
Resetting the receptors. It's like when people do like drug holidays.
Yes.
They take a holiday from their drug, and then the receptors in the body.
Believe that.
Yeah. It's like,
that's right.
Yeah. With the baby-led weaning, with introducing foods, they talk about how many taste buds these like babies have on their tongue, and now there's research. I just did a webinar with Spoonful One. Have you heard of them? It's basically exposing your baby to like, I think it's 7 or 9 of the most common allergens. To expose them earlier on to like the shellfish, the peanuts, all these things, and how it can be so beneficial.
Yeah, I did not always have a sugar addiction. I was really like, sugar didn't even appeal to me. I never wanted dessert. I didn't like anything. And then I went through a hard time in my life, like 5 years ago, and people were bringing desserts over to my house. I started eating them, and there was a lot of desserts. And so at night, I would go down and I would have some dessert every night. And then it just became this thing that was so, and it's been 5 years of me really struggling with it, but I'm super determined.
Well, it's interesting, the story you tell, because that's where the addiction came in. You associated sugar with comfort.
Yeah.
And so before you even eat the cookie or brownie, before your first bite, you've already gotten the pleasure from it, because you're anticipating what you're going to feel.
Oh my God, you're
slipping into psychiatry mode. But you're anticipating.
I need to break this.
And what you need to do is break that association with your brain. So when you see a cookie, you have to think, diabetes. You have to think, Gil, I'm not going to feel good. How do I, create a little space between wanting the meal, wanting the cookie, and eating it. That's that moment of mindfulness. That's how you break these cravings.
Jennifer, you're going to help me with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Work.
And you ask yourself, why am I reaching for this? What do I think this cookie is going to do for me? What feeling am I craving right now? What do I need right now in this moment?
It's almost like I'm in a panic, and
That's right.
I want it, and it's like I think I'm going to feel better, but
you really don't.
I know that I'll get a headache later, and my insulin levels are going to go nutso, and I'm going to feel like crap in 45 minutes.
Right.
All right, you got me inspired.
That's like when I don't want to go jogging, and I'm like, okay, well, if I don't go, what am I going to do? Sit and watch TV, and I'm going to feel sluggish because I've been sitting all day working. And I never regret. I've never gone jogging and said, I shouldn't have done that. I'm always happy. And so it's not about if we want to, it's about what do we need to do, and focusing on, we don't have to want to do it. Flossing.
I love that.
Have to admit, I don't want to do it, but I love the way my teeth feel afterwards. And I love going to sleep feeling like my teeth are clean and I'm doing something good for myself. So forget about motivation. Just think about a clear plan, how you can do it, make sure you do it, and the interest will come later.
That's great.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
This has been amazing. Thank you, Dr. Ulka. I have one last question for you. Okay. So, we talked about Steve. Steve is your husband. How long?
I feel like he should be here.
Yeah. How long? You've been married for how long?
5 years.
He's been vegan for how long?
Oh boy, 30 plus years.
So say Steve decided he wanted to take up hunting. Okay.
Oh, yes.
An avid
His brother
hunter.
would be so
An
happy.
avid hunter. Yeah, he wanted to. He wants to connect with his brother. He wants to be a hunter and
Kill a lot of animals.
kill a lot of animals, and he wants to cook them in your kitchen, and he wants to eat them 3 meals a day. Meat, animal products on your plates and pans. Okay. Would you prefer that? If you had to choose one, you have to choose.
Okay.
Or would you rather him have no teeth?
So no teeth and he doesn't wear dentures? Or can I just...
No teeth. Unfortunately, he can't afford dentures
Yeah.
Oof, that's rough.
because he's spending all his money hunting.
Do I have to eat these meals?
I don't think you.
No, but you
I
have
don't
to sit with him while
I'm
he eats
thinking
them.
way too hard about this.
You have to be married to him though.
Yeah.
In one of these situations.
Sorry, Steve.
Teeth are an important part of life.
I know.
I guess he could do the liquid success diet.
Yeah.
couldn't he? So maybe I'll just put him on liquid success, and then it's a win-win.
So she would take the no teeth.
I don't want dead animals in my house.
Yeah.
It's sad.
So you would go no.
And you know what? I will be taking care of him soon if he's eating deer 3 times a week or whatever, elk or bison. I'm going to be, he's going to get sick faster.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go with no
I like
teeth.
That's
I
awesome.
actually love that angle on it because
Yeah.
I'm getting to an age where, you start looking at partners and thinking, I mean,
Yeah.
I like taking care of people, but I don't want to. I don't want to take care of someone who hasn't chosen to take care of themselves.
Sure.
Because that to me would drive me crazy.
And a friend recently said this to me and it made so much sense. She said, when you think about getting healthy, like I want to do a plant-based diet, it's hard for a lot of people to do it because it's an abstract idea. Prevent. We don't think about preventive medicine. So thinking about lowering my risk of heart disease is such an abstract idea. But if you actually have heart disease, it's going to be that much harder to change your habits because now you're sick and you've got medications and you don't feel good, and it's that much harder to change habits. So better to adopt the healthy habit now while you're healthy and you have the energy and the vitality to do it versus wait till you're sick. It just becomes, there are more barriers and it's
Of
much
course.
harder to do.
Yeah.
So
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Ulka.
thank you.
Awesome.
I feel like we could go on for hours. This is so fun.
This is great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.